Some secrets are buried. Others write themselves into the walls. The House of Secrets. Chapter 2. The Girl Who Knew Too Much. I saw her, Isabel repeated, her voice a thread stretched too tight. She came out of Gabriel's room that night, around midnight. Did she see you? I asked. She crept like a ghost, barefoot, carrying something. I couldn't see what it was. Have you told anyone else? Isabel shook her head. Would you believe me if I did? Josephine is 10, maybe 11, and the last person in this house anyone wants to suspect. I leaned back in the chair. The fireplace behind me remained cold, the embers of our conversation the only thing burning. She told me she saw things, I said. Claimed everyone in this house is lying. Isabel laughed, sharp and bitter. That's the most truthful sentence spoken in this place all year. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. Not from fear, but from the feeling that I had started something, peeled back a corner of a curtain, only to realize the stage behind it was still being constructed. And the actors? They didn't know their lines yet. But someone had handed them a weapon. I kept the list Peter gave me on the nightstand. I read it twice, then again. The name at the bottom still haunted me. Isabel argued with Gabriel 2 nights before about me. I hadn't asked her. Maybe I didn't want to know. At dawn, I found Josephine in the library. She was curled in a leather armchair, one leg slung over the side, reading a book too thick for her age and sipping tea like she'd earned it. I don't like mornings, she said without looking up. You're awake awfully early for someone who doesn't. I never sleep much. I sat in the chair opposite her. She closed her book slowly, marked the page with a ribbon, and studied me with the kind of expression scientists reserve for test subjects. You came back, she said. Good. That means you're not as stupid as you look. Working on it, I replied. Mind if I ask you something? Josephine tilted her head. Why were you near Gabriel's room the night he died? She blinked once, then leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Because I thought he was going to die. Because I thought he was going to die, Josephine said again, this time slowly, as if testing how the words would land. I kept my voice steady. You had a reason to believe that? She nodded. Gabriel told me. I blinked. He told you he was going to die? Not in those words, she said, as if disappointed in my comprehension. But he started doing weird things, cleaning out drawers, burning old letters, gave me a watch, an expensive one, said he didn't need to keep time anymore. Did anyone else notice this? She shrugged. Everyone's too busy pretending to hate each other politely. I leaned forward. Josephine, I need to ask you something serious. She met my eyes, not a flicker of fear in her expression. Everything's serious in this house. Did you see who went into Gabriel's room that night, besides yourself? Silence. Then, yes. She looked down at her hands, fingers folding and unfolding with mechanical focus. I saw Peter, she said. He was holding something, a little bottle, dark blue. I went still. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. I watch people. It's what I do. I recalled Peter's envelope, the list, the missing bottle. Where did he go after? He gave the bottle to Brenda. Then she shut the door. I never saw them leave. I felt my stomach tighten. Why didn't you tell anyone? She scoffed. Tell Lavinia? She'd slap me with a proverb. Tell my father? He hasn't finished a sentence in years. Tell the police? They'd see a little girl with too much imagination. And me? She leaned back, folding her arms. I wasn't sure if you were one of them yet. One of who? The adults. The ones who forget what truth looks like when it's not dressed up. I sat with that for a moment. Then I asked, "Why were you there?" She didn't speak at first. Her fingers found a loose thread in her sweater and twisted it. "He said he'd show me something," she whispered. "Gabriel. He told me. He had a secret to tell me. About the family. About why everything changed after Isabel left." "And did he?" "No," she said. "Because when I got there, he was already dead." I left the library with the weight of Josephine's words pressing into my spine like a second shadow. The house felt different now, like it had been listening. Peter, Brenda, a blue bottle, a promise of a secret, cut off by death. I needed air. I stepped outside through the west veranda. The morning mist was lifting, revealing the garden paths and the greenhouse beyond. Now quiet, harmless. But I didn't trust stillness anymore. I lit a cigarette and watched the smoke curl upward, as if trying to escape the same thoughts I couldn't. What had Peter really wanted from me? To confess? To implicate Brenda? Or worse, to build an alibi? If what Josephine said was true, he handed her the poison. But if Brenda used it, did that make her the killer, or was it both of them? A conspiracy in the guise of routine. I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't turn. "Brenda," I said aloud, "come to enjoy the morning?" Her voice was closer than I expected. "I thought I'd find you here." I turned slowly. She wore a navy blue robe now, silk, embroidered. The same color Peter's supposed bottle had been. She was barefoot on the stone, a cigarette already burning between her fingers. "You don't sleep well, do you?" she asked. "Only when I'm dead tired." She smiled faintly. "That's a grim way to live. Fits the house." She exhaled a stream of smoke and sat on the garden bench opposite me. "I've seen the way you look at Peter," she said. "I look at everyone." "Not like him." I said nothing. She flicked ash into the damp grass. "I know what people think," she continued. "That I'm a pretty face with a quiet lover and an old man who made a mistake. Is that what you are?" Brenda turned her head, and for a moment the mask slipped. "I'm someone who didn't ask for this house to become a grave." I studied her. Not the eyes, the hands. Trembling, tense, but not from grief. From something older, deeper, like a pressure she'd been trained not to flinch from. "You knew Gabriel was changing his will," I said quietly. She didn't deny it. "I overheard your name once," she whispered. "In his study, he was angry, said Isabel would ruin everything, that he had to make sure." Her words faded into smoke. "You think Isabel was the threat?" I asked. "I think," she said, voice sharp. "He was too used to controlling everything, even people." Then she stood. "If you keep looking for answers, Mr. Carter, be prepared not to like what you find." And she walked back inside, barefoot, silent, like a ghost who hadn't yet chosen which room to haunt. I found Peter where I expected him, in the back library, between the encyclopedias and the locked cabinet no one ever opened. He was alone, sitting at a desk, writing something in a narrow notebook. When I stepped inside, he jumped slightly, then composed himself with an awkward smile. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "I slept just fine," I lied. "You, on the other hand, have some explaining to do." Peter closed his notebook carefully. "About?" I dropped into the chair across from him. "The bottle. The one Josephine saw you carry." He stiffened, then looked toward the door. A reflex you only develop when you have something to hide. "Brenda asked me to fetch it," he said. from the locked drawer in the study. And you did. She said it was for Gabriel's eyes, that the nurse had forgotten to leave the new vial. And you believed her? Peter hesitated. I didn't question it. You're a tutor, I said. You teach logic, pattern recognition, and you didn't question handing her an unlabeled dark blue bottle in the middle of the night? He looked down at his hands. I didn't want to get involved, he whispered. Not with whatever was happening. I leaned forward. You already are. You left me a list, Peter. A list that implicates Brenda and Roger and even Isabel. But you left out yourself. Peter's head snapped up. I didn't do anything. No? You helped. You enabled. Maybe you even suggested it. No. Then why leave the list? His voice broke. Because I'm afraid. There was silence. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that tells you a truth just fell into the room and no one knows what to do with it. Peter stood pacing now. Gabriel knew something, he said. He told me, not directly, but in pieces, that someone was planning something, that he'd changed his will, hidden a copy, that if anything happened to him, the real story wouldn't come out. Did he say who? Peter shook his head. He just kept saying, they're watching too closely now. I stood too. The air between us had changed. The fear was still there, but now it wore a different face. Peter, I said, you're going to tell me everything. Every detail you left out of that envelope. His shoulders slumped. You're not going to like it. I'm not here to like anything. He walked to the window, looked out into the garden and said quietly, Gabriel wasn't the only one who died that night. Gabriel wasn't the only one who died that night, Peter repeated, still facing the window. My mind scrambled. There was no second obituary, I said. No police report. No body. Peter turned slowly. No body, he agreed. Because it wasn't someone outside the house. It was something inside him. Something that had been gone a long time. I stared at him. You're speaking in riddles. I'm speaking in fear, he snapped. Then he took a deep breath and lowered his voice. Gabriel lost something that night, and it wasn't just his life, it was his control. For the first time in 30 years, someone inside this house acted without asking his permission. That terrified him. I think it killed him before the poison did. I stepped closer. Who do you think it was? Peter hesitated. I don't know. But you suspect someone. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. His eyes drifted toward the door, down the hall, to where Josephine slept. I followed his gaze. No, I said. She's just a kid. She's more than that, Peter whispered. You've seen it. She listens. She learns. She manipulates. She writes everything down. And she's not afraid of any of us. She saw you with the bottle, I said carefully. He flinched. Did she say that? She said a lot of things. Peter looked like a man realizing his hands were covered in invisible blood. Peter, I said, what are you trying to tell me? He opened his mouth, closed it, then walked to the bookshelf and pulled down a thin black volume, a journal. He flipped it open to a marked page and handed it to me. It was a list. Names, times, locations, all from the past 2 months. Josephine wrote this, Peter said. She left it in the schoolroom. I don't think she meant to, or maybe she did. I scanned the entries. Father and mother argued. 11:47 p.m. Brenda hid something under mattress. 12:05 a.m. Peter lied about being in the greenhouse. 12:30 a.m. Gabriel yelled at someone on the phone. 10:09 p.m. Isabel left her room twice, once barefoot. 2 a.m. Ethan arrived. smiled at Isabel. She smiled back. My blood ran cold. "She's been watching all of us," I whispered. Peter nodded. "And now, Gabriel's dead, and she's still watching." He looked at me then, fully, directly, for the first time since we met. "Ethan, what if she wasn't there when he died by accident?" "What are you saying?" Peter swallowed. "What if she was there to make sure?" I didn't go to her right away. I stood in the hallway outside her room for nearly 10 minutes, just watching the door. A yellow door, slightly crooked on its hinges, like everything else in this house. Innocent enough, until you looked closer. Then I knocked. Once. Twice. No answer. I opened the door anyway. Josephine sat at her desk, as if she had been waiting. The lamp beside her cast long shadows across the wallpaper, dancing between the edges of her paper dolls. She didn't turn around. "You took the journal," she said. I stepped inside. "You left it out." "No," she corrected. "I placed it." She turned slowly, adjusting her glasses. Her face was unreadable. "I wanted you to find it. You were outside Gabriel's room that night," I said. "I never said I wasn't." "You saw Peter give Brenda the bottle." "Mm-hmm." "You told me he was already dead when you arrived." "I did." I stepped closer. "So why did you write down everything, except that?" Josephine tilted her head. "Because I wanted to see who would ask." She stood now, barely coming up to my chest, but there was nothing childlike in her posture. "You think I did it?" she asked calmly. "I think," I said, "you know more than you're telling." "I know a lot of things," she replied. "Like who took the missing copy of the will, or what Brenda keeps in the floorboard under her bed, or that Roger spends hours talking to himself in the greenhouse." She walked to the bookshelf and pulled out a thick volume, opened it. Inside wasn't a storybook. It was hollowed out, filled with photos, notes, copies of letters, evidence. She looked up at me. "Do you want the truth, Mr. Carter? Or do you just want a version of it that fits what you already believe?" I didn't answer right away. "Why do you keep all this?" I asked. "Because no one else remembers anything unless it benefits them." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. Just a hairline fracture. And in that moment, for just a flicker, I saw it. Not the manipulative genius, not the cold observer, but a little girl, terrified of being ignored in a house that only pays attention when someone dies. She handed me a small envelope from the hollow book. "This," she said, "was in Gabriel's study, hidden in the back of the old clock. I took it before the police arrived." I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, dated 3 days before Gabriel's death. It was addressed to Isabel. The envelope was old, but the handwriting was steady. Ink that hadn't smudged. A name written with care. Isabel. I sat down in Josephine's reading chair, the envelope in my lap. My fingers hesitated at the edge. Part of me didn't want to open it, not without her here. But Josephine had handed it to me. That meant she wanted me to know first. I unfolded the letter. "My dearest Isabel, by the time you read this, something will have shifted. Whether in the ground or in the family, I do not know. But I feel it coming, not as a threat, more like a tide. I see the cracks in the walls I built, cracks that whisper, cracks that watch. You've always been the best of us. The one who looked this house in the eye and didn't blink. That's why I pushed you away, because you reminded me what I failed to protect. I fear I will not die naturally, and I fear even more that no one will know what truly killed me. But you must. There's a will, not the one they will find, a true one. locked in the old chess box. You remember the box? The one we played with in the storm of '39. The key is in Lavinia's Bible, tucked behind the verse she pretends not to believe. When the time comes, use it and burn this letter, not for them, for you. I hope you still believe in justice and in Ethan. Trust him. Your grandfather, Gabriel. I read it again, then again. Each time the words took on new weight, not just for what they said, but for what they meant. Gabriel knew. He knew there was danger in his own house, that someone, or several someones, had been planning this, that his control had slipped. But instead of stopping it, he left breadcrumbs, not to protect himself, but to protect Isabel, and maybe to test me. Josephine stood by the window, staring out at the trees. He trusted you, she said softly, more than he trusted anyone here. I folded the letter carefully. He trusted you too, I replied. No, she whispered. He knew I'd find it. That's not the same. There was sadness in her voice, the first real crack in her porcelain calm. As I stood to leave, she turned toward me. One more thing, she said. If you go looking for that box. Yes? She met my eyes. Don't do it alone. It was just past 9 p.m. when I found Isabel by the fireplace in the drawing room. She was standing, not sitting. One hand rested on the marble mantel, the other clutching a photograph of Gabriel in his youth, the same photo that hung near the stairwell, only this copy had been hidden behind a frame. I held up the letter. I read it, I said. She didn't turn. I know, Josephine told me. She also told me not to go looking alone. That made her turn. You're not going alone, she said. We're doing this together. The hallway leading to Lavinia's room felt colder than the others, not just physically, but in intention, like the walls had absorbed her disapproval and refused to let it fade. Her door was closed. We didn't knock. Inside, the room was exactly as I remembered, tidy to the point of aggression. The bed tucked military style. The books on her shelves ordered alphabetically and chronologically. Her chair angled to catch the last of the sunset, even though the curtains were drawn. The Bible sat on the side table, thick, leather-bound. A red ribbon marked its spine like a warning. Isabel reached for it, then stopped. Do you want to do it? She asked. No, I said, but I will. I picked up the Bible and opened it slowly. The pages crackled faintly. I flipped past Genesis, past Exodus, to the Psalms. That's when I saw it. A small brass key, thin and delicate, tucked between Psalm 39 and Psalm 40. I held it up. Found it, Isabel exhaled. That was fast. She'll know it's missing, I said. She already knows we're coming for something. The chess box was in the attic. I'd only seen it once before. During a tour of the house Isabel gave me back when things still felt like a future we could build. It was shaped like a coffin for secrets, long, narrow, carved from dark oak. The pieces inside were hand-painted, weighted, and locked away unless Gabriel wanted to play properly. When we got there, the attic was dark, lit only by a single bulb hanging from the ceiling like a tired eye. The box sat under a dust cloth, as if it had died years ago and no one had buried it. I knelt, inserted the key. It turned with a quiet click. Inside was not just the chess set, though it was there, pristine, every pawn in place. But under the board, hidden beneath a false bottom, was a thick envelope, labeled in the same handwriting as the letter, Last Will, True Copy. And beneath that, another envelope, smaller, unlabeled. Isabel reached for it. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a single page, not legal, not formal, just raw. She read it silently, then again. Then she handed it to me. Isabel, if you're reading this, it means I failed to stop what I sensed. But you must know, the one who brought darkness into this house did not arrive recently. They were born here, raised here, fed by us, trained by silence. If you hesitate, you will lose everything, even Ethan. You have to finish what I couldn't. Gee, we didn't speak at first. The weight of Gabriel's second letter lingered in the air, hanging heavier than the dust. Isabel held the envelope labeled "Last Will, True Copy," as if it were evidence in a trial where everyone we knew was a suspect. She handed it to me. "Read it," she said. "I don't want to misinterpret." I nodded. The seal opened with a dry crack. The paper inside was thick, official, dated, notarized, legitimate. I, Gabriel Moreau, being of sound mind and body, revoke all prior testaments. The first lines were standard, legal, cold, but then it changed, and everything else changed with it. To my son Roger Moreau, I leave the vineyards in Vermont and the Boston townhouse. To Philip Moreau and his wife Eleanor, I leave the London accounts and the paintings in the East Wing. To my wife, Brenda Moreau, I leave the convertible Bentley, the jewelry in the vault, and a stipend of $1,000 monthly. To Isabel Moreau, I leave the controlling stake in Moreau Holdings, the Elm House, the private equity shares, the rights to publish my memoirs. She alone has the judgment, restraint, and clarity to hold this family, or at least its legacy, together. And to one individual I will not name here, but whose behavior, both in silence and in shadow, has forced this rewriting. I leave nothing. I paused. Isabel had gone pale. "You," I said softly. "He gave it all to you." She didn't respond. The room felt colder now. Or maybe it was just what power did when its weight shifted. "This would have made someone very, very angry," I added. She finally spoke. "Brenda, possibly, but read that last line again." I handed her the document. Her eyes ran to the bottom. "And to one individual I will not name here." She looked up. "He knew it would cause a war." I nodded. "So he tried to start it with a whisper, not a match." She folded the document slowly. "This version would never have made it to probate," she said, "unless someone delivered it in person. And now, he's dead." "But we have it," I said, "and whoever killed him knows we might." A creak echoed from below. We froze. Steps, slow, deliberate. Someone was coming up to the attic. Isabel's eyes widened. She mouthed, "Hide it." I shoved the document and the letters back into the chest box and pushed it beneath the table. We killed the light and waited. The footsteps stopped just outside the attic door. Silence. Isabel and I stood frozen in the dark. The only sound between us the quiet tick of the attic's old wall clock, and the shared pulse of panic between two people suddenly no longer alone. Then the doorknob turned. It creaked open slowly, and there, backlit by the glow of the hallway below, stood Lavinia. She didn't speak. Her eyes scanned the attic, taking in the covered furniture, the hanging bulb still swaying faintly, the open window at the far end. Then she looked at us. "Curious place for a midnight stroll," she said dryly. I forced a smile, couldn't sleep, and decided to explore the least interesting part of the house. "We were just talking," Isabel added. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Ah?" Lavinia stepped fully into the attic, closing the door behind her. "And what, may I ask, does one talk about at this hour surrounded by cobwebs and boxes?" I glanced at Isabel. She didn't blink. "Gabriel," I said. "We were remembering him." That made her pause. She took another step forward, her shoes clicking softly on the wood. "He hated this room," she murmured. "Said the ceiling felt like it was listening." "Maybe it is," Isabel replied. Their eyes locked. Two women cut from glass, clear, sharp, and prone to shattering at the right angle. Lavinia turned to me. "You've been asking questions. I've been given very few answers." She folded her arms. "Well, let me give you one." I waited. "Whatever you think you're about to find, it won't matter. Not in this house. Not with this family. Truth doesn't survive here. It only hides until no one cares anymore." She looked between us. Then, almost gently, she said, "You do well to leave this place before it turns you into one of us." With that, she turned and left. Not hurried, not suspicious, just finished. The door clicked shut behind her. We stood in the dark a moment longer. Then Isabel whispered, "She knows." I nodded. "Maybe not everything, but enough. She's warning us." "No," I said. "She's daring us to keep going." I bent down, retrieved the hidden envelope. The will was still there, untouched. But so was the truth. Whatever we did next, someone would try to stop us. We weren't just holding a piece of paper. We were holding a threat. We didn't go back downstairs right away. Instead, we sat in the attic for a while. Just the two of us, the will between us, and a silence too full to be called peace. "What do we do now?" Isabel asked finally. I didn't answer immediately, because the truth was, I didn't know. "We have two choices," I said. "We deliver this to the authorities, or we keep it hidden until we understand the full board." She looked at the chess box. Gabriel would have hated that metaphor. "He played to win," I replied, "but never before the last move." Isabel nodded slowly. "If we show this to the police, someone gets arrested. Maybe Brenda, maybe Roger, maybe even Lavinia if they read between the lines." "And if we don't?" I asked. She hesitated. "Then someone else dies." That wasn't speculation. It was knowledge. Because once a secret is exposed in part, those who benefit from the lie scramble. And sometimes they kill again. I stood and walked to the window. The garden below was dark, still, but I could feel it. The house was shifting, not physically, but in intent. We had changed something by coming up here. We had disturbed whatever balance Gabriel's silence had once maintained. "Let's hide it," Isabel said at last. I turned. "The will?" She nodded. "For now. Somewhere only we know. Just until we can decide who deserves to see it." I agreed, but I didn't like it. Truth, once buried, has a habit of turning poisonous. We sealed the will inside a waterproof envelope, wrapped it in cloth, and tucked it behind a loose panel in the attic wall. Isabel marked the wood subtly, a scratch only visible to someone who knew to look. Then we returned to our rooms, at least we tried to, because halfway down the stairs we heard the voice, high, crisp, and waiting in the shadows. Interesting night for a climb, don't you think? It was Josephine. She stood at the bottom of the staircase, in her robe and slippers, a notebook clutched to her chest. "How long have you been there?" I asked. She smiled. "Long enough." Thank you for listening, but remember, some truths aren't buried, they're watching.